Okay, so today we're going to cover the life of Hiram Ulysses Grant. I'll talk about where U.S. Grant comes from here in a second. Grant is born in 1822 in Ohio and has a fairly uneventful childhood. His dad owns a tanning company, and Grant loves horses. He didn't really care much to skin and tan them. He's a fantastic equestrian, something that's going to follow him to West Point in the Mexican-American War, all the way through the American Civil War. That being said, because he kind of shies away from the family business, he gets a commission to West Point at the age of 17. It's actually at West Point where Ulysses S Grant comes from. There is a clerical mistake that changed Hiram Ulysses Grant to Ulysses S Grant. So the S doesn't stand for anything. You'll hear people talk about how it stands for Samson. Some people talk about the story with the briefcase where Hiram Ulysses Grant spelled the initials Hug, and Grant thought that wasn't manly enough. Also, U.S. Grant seemed to catch on, so Ulysses S Grant, what we know him as, just kind of stuck, and the name followed him for the rest of his life. Though Grant was just an average student at West Point, he did set a horse high jumping record that stood for over 25 years. After graduating from West Point, Ulysses S. Grant gets stationed out in St. Louis. It's here he's going to meet Julia Dent. They're going to secretly get engaged. They do this in secrecy due to Dent's family's disapproval of Ulysses S. Grant. They thought he was just a poor military person who wouldn't amount to anything. In fact, even after getting engaged, it's 4 years before they even get married due to Grant's role in the Mexican-American War. Grant is oftentimes stationed far away from Julia and his family, which can help attribute to some of the stories of Grant's drinking. Though Grant opposed the Mexican-American War, calling it in his memoirs the most unjust war ever fought, he served admirably under Generals Zachary Taylor and Winfield Scott. When Grant moves back to St. Louis, he built a log cabin called Hardscrabble that was on land given by Julia's father. Here, the Grants are in some pretty tough times. Ulysses fails at farming, real estate, and a couple other businesses. This is actually from a pawn shop where one Christmas, Ulysses S. Grant pawns off one of his watches for $22 just so he can afford presents for Christmas. At the outbreak of the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant is working at his father's tannery in Galena, Illinois. Once taking command of troops, he's going to win battles of Fort Henry and Donelson, much needed wins early in the Civil War for the Union. When they ask Grant about the terms of surrender, Grant famously responds with nothing but unconditional surrender, which becomes his nickname throughout the entire Civil War. He's also going to help win the Battle of Vicksburg, helping the Union gain control of the Mississippi River. He's also going to be at the Battle of Shiloh. He will eventually lead the entire Army of the Potomac. One time somebody famously asked Lincoln about Grant's drinking problems. Lincoln responded with, whatever is in the barrel of Grant's whiskey, he wishes that he can give it to the other commanders, kind of joking about that. Grant is eventually going to outduel Robert E. Lee and be present when Robert E. Lee signs the surrender of the Confederacy at Appomattox Courthouse. Per usual, though, I am running out of time. I should mention that Grant becomes the 18th President of the United States. This here is a picture of Grant finishing his memoirs. He finishes the memoirs of his life literally about a week before he dies. Mark Twain will help get them published, making sure that Grant's family has money. Anyways, hopefully you learned something. Love you all.